Welcome to episode 345 of the show. I'm your host, Abuja based sales consultant and event media professional Tavishima Ayede. A couple of episodes ago, I'm assuming it must have been 3 or 4 episodes back, I spoke about when not to ask for a review, and it was inspired by real life events that I was living through at the time where we were going through the the national power grid collapse. National power grid collapse. And so because of that, we had this problem where in Abuja and in some parts of Nigeria, we hadn't had power for several days, running up to a week. But it was compounded in my own area, in Apo, in Abuja, because we also had some ongoing issues before that. So essentially, we had just gone about almost close to 2 weeks without power supply. Anyway, for those of you who are curious, it still has not been resolved yet. At least we're having spotty power every couple of hours. Have light for an hour or two, and then it's gone for several hours, and then back again. So we're still on that grind. Anyway, so that's what inspired the previous episode where I spoke about when not to ask for the customer review, because at the time that this thing was still ongoing, you had officials, customer service officials of the Power Holding Corporation of Nigeria, the PHCN. They are the people that are in charge of power distribution to the retail users, to the end users like me. So we're in this situation where we had unresolved complaints, and pretty much they were asking for ratings and reviews. And so that's the reason why I hopped up on the podcast a couple of episodes ago, maybe 2 or 3 back. If this is your first time listening, you will be able to find it because the title will be something like when not to ask for customer service reviews or something like that. I can't remember. But when you're done with this recording, you just hop into the menu and then you'll be able to find that episode. You don't have to scroll that far back because at most, I think it must have been maybe 3 or 4 episodes back. And so the thrust of that episode was to say basically that we shouldn't ask for the review while the problem is still ongoing. So if you're a wedding planner and the bride was unhappy because, let's say, her uncles were not treated properly or members of her mom's family were not treated properly, so even though you've collected all the money and you've delivered, and technically speaking, this is a closed case, my advice would be, well, the bride and maybe mom's family are unhappy about a certain number of things. So I would think that you should do well to reach out and try and sort out these issues, deal with any substantive issues if you can. And then after that, it will now give you a clear runway to ask for ratings and reviews. Because if the bride is unhappy that you guys treated her father's family poorly or her mom's family poorly, or maybe her school friends didn't get to eat food or whatever, it would be in bad taste to start asking for a review while the situation is still ongoing. And it's the same whether you're a lawyer or you're an architect or a dentist or whatever it is that you do. It's in bad taste to ask for the rating and the review while the substantive problem is still on, or you have tried to resolve it, but everybody is not yet quite happy with the conclusion. What do you do in cases where you can't resolve it to everybody's satisfaction? That is something that we'll talk about at another recording, because it's something that I have strong opinions of. Okay, let me just give a hint at what my own opinion is. I really think once you've tried exhausting all realistic avenues to resolve the dispute, because, for instance, if I suspect that there's a problem, I'll reach out to the couple. But I've had this situation where there was a couple in particular. I'm not sure if it's because of cultural differences, but I would hear through the wedding planner that there was a problem. I reached out to them directly, but they wouldn't answer the phone call. So I figured maybe it was a cultural thing, because we're both from different cultures. I'm markedly older than both the bride and the groom, and so I figured maybe because of cultural differences, it's not okay in their culture. Maybe it's not okay in the Yoruba culture because the bride was Yoruba and then the groom was from my side. Well, not from my side, he's from Kogi State. So I figured maybe it's cultural differences that, you can rant to your wedding planner because you guys are cool and you guys are friends and so similar age, but you can't blast the wedding photographer if he's older than you. So maybe if I was the same age as them, then I would have been able to get to the root of the problem. So that's how we had been resolving issues in the past until after delivery, and there was one more thing that needed to be sorted out. And yes, I spoke to the wedding planner, and then I reached out 3 times and no response. And at that point, I just let it go, because realistically speaking, if I have explored the backdoor channels with the planner and then I've made 3 attempts on my own, I really don't see what else I can do to resolve the issue. But anyway, in a future episode, I'm going to explore all those dynamics some more. Now, I've gone over the recap. So, what's the whole point of today's recording? It's quite simple. I realized that I spoke about when not to ask for the rating or the review or the referral, and my assumption was that the average person is going to ask for the rating, the review, the referral after everything has been executed. But I had an issue that needed to be resolved with my bank, and so I called them, and I got exposed to, well, not exposed because it's been happening for a while, but it's not something that I've spoken about on the podcast. So they hint at you for the for the rating and the review, even before you have started the process of resolving your query. And so that's what I want to talk about today. Because I would assume, before we continue, just like to apologize for the sound outside the window. I live next to a commercial kitchen. They shouldn't be allowed to do that, but the fellow did so anyway, and the rest of us, what can we do? He does what he wants with his property, and the rest of us can go to hell pretty much. So where was I? Yeah, so that's what all the shouting at the background is about. It's cooks and stewardesses and what else? Drivers, just people having a good time, just thinking about all sorts of things. And then I can't escape them because the whole kitchen operation runs the whole length of the house. So it doesn't matter where I hide, noise is always going to seep through. Okay, now back to the topic at hand. Now, in my previous recordings, I had assumed that most people are going to do what is the reasonable thing, which is to wait until the end of the transaction before you start asking for a rating or a review. But the bank that I use, I'm not going to mention which bank, and I won't be surprised if other banks do it as well, not only in Nigeria, but in whatever city it is that you live, because sometimes these things become common practice and international best practice. So you will find that there are some people who ask for the rating and the review before the interaction has even commenced. And I really think that this is a bad idea. It probably does not apply to those of us in the wedding and the event space, or maybe consultancy space, because there's no how that a consultant, a doctor, or an architect is going to ask for a review before he has delivered before your baby has been delivered, or before they deliver the housing plans, or whatever, or a photographer asks you for a review before he has sent over the wedding album, the photo book, the frames, and then all of that. But just in case there are some of you who are still involved in some sort of corporate practice, you work in government parastatals, you work in banks, what else? You work in a corporate space, and maybe you're in your department, and your boss thinks it's a good idea for you to hit people up with review and customer service ratings and all whatnot the moment they walk through the door. This episode is made for those of you who might be in that situation. It's a bad idea to ask for the review before we have even started dealing with the substantive issue. So if you work in Lagos or in Abuja and you work in some government corporation or a private corporation or whatever, let's say you work with a regulatory agency, let's say you work with the NNPC, and then people come in, and even before you start addressing the complaints, you're asking them, you're sending them links so that they can give you a rating and a review and stuff like that. I really don't think it's a good idea. I don't know how this practice has continued for so long. Well, to be fair to them, they don't actually stop you from accessing the service. They just put it out there that this is a link for ratings and review and stuff like that. But I still think it's a bad idea for the rating and the review thing to come up at the beginning before you have gotten into what the substantive issues are, especially on customer service back channels, where typically if someone calls, the person has a problem. If the average person calls a bank, is because he has a problem. a payment hasn't gone through, there's something he or she is trying to resolve. And it's the same thing if someone reaches out to you guys in corporate headquarters. Very rarely does it happen that someone comes to corporate headquarters because they just want to see you guys face to face and tell you that you're doing an absolutely wonderful job, and thank you very much. Here's my vote of confidence and blah blah blah. If someone goes to corporate headquarters, it's because he or she is pissed about something. And the same thing if you work in a government regulatory agency. So people typically show up at times like this because they're pissed and there's some issues that need to be resolved. And this is not the time to be asking for a rating or a review. And of course, by extension, for a referral as well. So, in summary, well, that's the reason why I made this episode, because I addressed how it should be done after the fact. I just didn't address that it should not be done before the fact. So, in summary, the best time to ask for a rating or a review is to wait until you're done with delivery, and that we've made sure that there are no problems, or that even if there were problems, that we've done the best to resolve it. That we've tried our best to resolve it to the best of our ability, and that everybody is happy. And then that is the best time to ask for a rating or a review on Google or Instagram or whatever, and then we can now ask for the referral. And so, just in case I haven't been clear enough, for those of you who are still in corporate practice or you work with government regulatory agencies and all that, this practice of you guys trying to send people links and everything so that they can give you a review before they have even gotten to the root of what their problem is, or before they've gotten to whatever it is that they need resolving. Stop that practice. It's not good. Even if it is considered international best practice, it is not best common sense practice, because common sense would dictate that if someone shows up and he has a problem, let's solve that first. When we're done with that, we can now say, how did we do? Are you going to give us 5 stars or 10? And if you've given us 10 stars, are you going to refer us to your mom and your uncle and your colleagues as well? So that's it for today's recording. Thank you very much for listening. I'll catch you guys at the next episode.